Ho, ho, ho. It's only a week until
Merry we go along.
I'm getting excited now. I've put on my Wham t-shirt and it will probably be peeled off me towards the end of the season. Yeah, I'm Andy and I'm coming to you from a festive United Kingdom.
Good to see you as always, Andy. And hello, everybody. I am your other host, Scott, coming to you from an equally festive Toronto.
Lovely. Has the snow started to fall yet?
Mm-hmm. Yes. My kids lament that there isn't enough on the ground, but it stayed warm pretty well through the fall, and then it kind
of switched
right at the end of November, December. Yeah,
I love it. Well, this is the Tea and Timbits podcast, where we talk about global perspectives on business development to help you prosper. I almost forgot what we did there. I'm so focused on Christmas now that I can't remember anything.
Have you done your Christmas shopping? Have you got it all done?
I am very good with my Christmas shopping. I buy Christmas presents throughout the year, and then I just have a place that I keep them. And then at the Christmas, I get surprised as well about all of the great things that I've got for other people.
I look forward to my package arriving. Carry on.
Yeah, this week we are going to be talking about what makes a good sales process, because this month we are talking about process, and we don't want to make it too boring, which is why we briefly talked about risk last week, where Scott got very unhappy with me. But we will continue this week with a much more positive and happy topic. But before we get into that, Scott, do you have a story for us?
You're just trying to see what kind of a reaction you can get from me.
I know. I'm just pushing. It's like a season of goodwill, so I'm trying to put a little bit of bad will in there.
Trying to make sure you're
see how far I can push that goodwill.
Doesn't stay too high. All right, well, Andy, if I'm doing a solo episode next week, everybody will know why. The story I was going to share was a process story. And we had a project where we, for a client we've had for quite some time, and throughout the year we'll do different initiatives and new engagements and new features and other projects and whatnot, and we'll always sort of reflect on what worked well and what do we need to shift and change for next time, and recently, before kicking off another project, we put a lot of work into, if we run it this way, if we get the right people involved at this step, if we do it in this order, if our team gets involved this way at this point, this is how we think it's all going to go better. And wouldn't you know it, the very, very first step, the process was broken. There was, and it wasn't like, oh, we're really sorry, we know this isn't at all what we agreed, but I had to do it for internal reasons or for this, that, or the other thing, and I appreciate that this is a deviation, and I'm willing to do XYZ to get us back on track. It was just, well, nope, now we are where we are, and we're going to keep like steamrolling forward. And then I was left in a scenario of trying to pick up the pieces and trying to say, well, what do we do now? And we're back where we tried not to go from last time. And so I was really proud of having done all this initial alignment work to say, and there was great enthusiasm for what we had agreed upon. And it felt good in that moment. And I was like, awesome. Oh, like we've done this. We've had some good conversations. We're going to be able to do this with so much more efficiency, enjoyment, and impact. Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right, off we go. And then it fell apart, and it was like so. And for the team internally, it was so like demoralizing. It was such a the air came out of the balloon, so to speak. And I was reflecting on like, well, what? Because then I'm sending emails going like, well, now we are here. We're going to have to do this. And could I get you to get on a call? Can we talk? And like nothing. internally for myself, what I've um, decided, what I want to try not to forget for next time is you have to also, at the beginning, when you're establishing that alignment, talk about the negative outcome. Okay, great. We are aligned on all this, but now let's talk about what happens if this breaks down. There needs to be that initial upfront agreement on not just what the process should be, but what are we going to do if we don't each hold up our end of the bargain or follow this process.
Like a risk analysis.
Yeah, that's the word that was coming through my mind. If you're watching this video, you can see how smug Andy's face is right now. If you're not, let me tell you, he's just feeling very proud of himself there. Anyway, that's my story. I'm done now.
Thank you for the story, Scott. Really appreciate it, and the opportunity to tease you once more in this episode. I will not push or extend this goodwill too far. Let's vote here. I will. What is a sales process? We are talking this week about the what makes a good sales process, but what is a sales process?
Yeah, and I thought that it was sort of an obvious part of business development, even though we existed for so long without this. And then when I discovered it and have been sort of following it and implementing it within our own organization, it just feels so normal and natural. But again, sort of interacting with clients and other business partners, and you see that, a lot of times people are just reacting in the moment, doing what they think is appropriate for each particular opportunity and each particular client. And they're letting the client lead and drive things forward, just hoping that, less friction, more, friendliness and accommodation is going to help them win the deal. So that's what it isn't. It's not that. Let me define what it is by telling you what it isn't. But it is a very clearly articulated set of steps that you go through in your sales conversations, in your sales process, to get from
prospect to customer,
stranger to advocate, which is what they become after they become a delighted customer. And there can be, I don't want to overcomplicate it, which is where sort of the hesitation in my train of thought at the moment is coming from. But we have a sales process for when it is an identified opportunity, which means we've qualified them. They need something, and they're ready to spend money. Basically, they have a problem and they have a motivation to solve the problem. Sometimes you find people who have a problem, but they don't really, want to address it, and you start trying to convince them. That's not an opportunity in our world. There's a whole other part of sales, which is lead generation, demand generation, getting that initial top of funnel interest. We do not have a process for that. I have a draft one. I have a sketch of what it could be. I have ideas in my mind. For a very long time, the activities that we kind of were executing from a demand generation were working, and we really just needed the opportunity management side. We've got a really well constructed opportunity management process. We do need something more formal on the lead management, lead demand generation front. So the reason I sort of injected that into it is you can have a collection of processes to cover your business development department or life cycle, or it can be sort of one overarching one. So that's what a process is to me. And one final comment is you can show it. You can bring up a diagram of it, and you can articulate it to your prospect, and you need to. So
involve the customer in that process.
You asked me, I could show it to you.
Yeah, no, that's the absolute key. I mean, it's, as you said, it's not just about closing deals. It's about creating that sort of predictable pipeline that delivers value to the customer, and that value can be to realize that you're not good for working with each other, or that it's not the right opportunity, or that they're not ready, or that you're not ready. But yeah, exactly that. That is a good sales process. But if we go down, yeah, go on.
All right, do you want to finish your thought there?
Nope.
What are the So I mentioned that like we have one clearly defined for managing an opportunity and working on one for lead generation. What have you seen? Have you seen it exist in one of those scenarios, not the other? Have you seen one process to rule them all?
I rarely see. I mean, I tend to find myself going into companies who lack a sales process altogether.
Yeah.
There's no structure for prospecting, no structure for discovery work. There's no structure for what happens when a customer says they want to do stuff. Yeah, there'll be processes, internal processes that are defined by what other departments need from you. Fill in a credit application form, fill in a new customer thing, register that you picked up the phone to them in the CRM, which often doesn't happen, of course. But that's really as far as it goes. It's really sort of driven by what the internal processes are. If they exist in the other departments and they have needs, then that is what sort of tends to drive the activities. And that's really, really wrong. I mean, those things should be featured in your process and very clearly defined. At this point, we will need to go through a credit application. We will need to, do this and do that. But the sales process should not be driven by the internal steps that you need to make. It should be a journey that you're taking someone on from, as you said, a stranger to advocate, and somebody from a prospect to a customer. And the steps that you take on that will vary depending on your business, the type of product you're selling, the size of business, the types of customers you're working with, whether it's a service, whether it's a product. But you should still have a process. It should be written down, it should be defined, and it should be followed, and it should be documented.
So I'm going to make the bold assumption here that not everybody that is listening is in a position to implement or create that process, and if it doesn't exist. Is it something that an individual can do, or does it have to come from the business?
No, that is a very, very good question, because I have seen a couple of companies that I've worked with where there are star salespeople in the teams, and they are doing really well because of the fact that they have put a process in place where there is none for the organization. And they follow that process, and it doesn't have to be complicated. I mean, it's it starts with prospecting and discovery work, and next step, sort of, I don't know, presenting a solution, handling objections, and closing the deal. It doesn't have to have really, really complicated steps. Yes, each part of that will have steps within it, but understanding that framework, understanding that journey you're taking a customer on, and the things that you need to do to get the customer into that journey and help them along that journey and manage all of your internal steps, you can do that yourself. You can put that in yourself and create that, and manage it within your own CRM systems, manage it within, if you have a CRM system, and just create what you need in order to be successful. But as a leader of a sales team, you should be putting this thing in place for your team.
100%. And I sort of have the same answer to the question that I posed, which is, if you're in an organization, this is missing, build it for yourself. Build it for yourself and start following it for yourself. And then your teammates, your manager will see that, and they, I'm willing to bet they won't tell you to stop.
Exactly.
And it will probably evolve into something that the whole organization, it may not look the same, but it will be a seed. Second question, and this is based on my own experience and the way that we have to operate. So sometimes we are executing our own sales process because they are, it's a lead that has come into us. And other times we are selling through our channel partner. So the lead is theirs and it's their opportunity, and we become a subcontractor to deliver the implementation service. What is your advice to us about our sales process in that scenario?
Well, it's a good question, but it's actually leading straight into a point that I wanted to make. Is that
Oh,
we were
start a
talking. We should do a podcast. we mentioned just now that it should be clear and simple when you have a sales process, and part of the reason for that is that it's flexible, and that whilst you have a structure that is kind of essential for what happens, the process must allow flexibility and adaptability to unique customer circumstances or unique customer needs. And that's what I was going to say. I mean, one of the biggest mistakes is overcomplicating the process and trying to do a one size fits all approach and skipping steps. Don't skip the steps. Even if you have to adapt it, make sure that the steps are still there and that you're still taking on that journey, but that you've adapted it appropriately for the circumstances that you find yourself in.
What I like about sort of coming back to like tying this all together to where we've gotten in the conversation so far is if you have it formalized and something you can show, there are defined steps. And to your point, when you're skipping steps, it's not because you've thrown process out the window. It's because you've gone, okay, wait a minute, we don't need this step anymore. So by the way, we're over here now in my process. You're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. So in that kind of now, okay, so now we're blending into another scenario that's in the back of my mind, which is an RFP process. So it's where there's a procurement person on the other side whose job it is to establish this process on behalf of the buyer, and you have no choice but to engage in that process and follow it if you are an interested proponent, if you want to submit a bid. So I'm curious what your thoughts are. Like, is it just again be flexible and be adaptable in the same way?
In those scenarios, I mean, it comes back to the last episode that we touched on with the risk analysis, because you need to understand if stepping away from your sales process and especially the elements of it which because essentially it should be, most of the steps should be customer focused. So if you're stepping away from that and you're reducing the amount of value and the amount of support that you're delivering to your customers, then are you still really delivering your product or the right product or a product that is actually going to deliver what the customer's after? And if you are able to adapt your sales process and still deliver excellence to the customers, then fine. Then you can adapt and accept the RFP or the RFQ process. But the best thing to do is sometimes step away from those situations if you feel that you can no longer deliver the quality that is your business. It's hard sometimes because you get very excited about it, but the reality is, even if you win that project, even if you win that sale, you haven't really won, because you are setting yourself up for a lot of complications and a lot of challenges because you have stepped out of your sales process and you are unable to deliver what the customer really wants.
So tell me what you think about whether this is appropriate. I've been working on a couple of RFP responses lately. It's probably the first couple that I've done in a couple of years. Like we generally don't respond to them. We will if we're invited. And somebody says we'd really like to see your name on the list of responses. That's a bit different, and that's kind of my qualification to even consider it. So that has happened a couple of times very recently. I am absolutely playing the game. I am absolutely, with the submission, trying to get past the first gate. I'm trying to put something in that goes, you know what, like you've got this, but as soon as you get into the short list, you get the conversation. And so if you're willing to put in all the work, because it's a ton of work to get to that point, then there's no commitments, and you get to say, by the way, thank you for the fact that you tell me if you like this or not. By the way, thank you for the fact that we've been able to get to this point. It's been really interesting to get all your information and put together a thoughtful response. I want to let you know that we also have a sales process. You've got a procurement process. We've got an evaluation process to make sure that we're going to be enabled for success. So if you want to advance us further, we are going to need you to do a few of the other steps that we need in order to achieve success. If that's not going to suit you, it is not worth going much further. So you have to be ready to disqualify yourself after you've gotten through the first gate, but you don't get a chance to even put that forward. And in the couple of times that I've tried it, the other party has been like impressed. They've been like,
yeah, absolutely.
oh,
because you actually have a process, you actually have things, because that's why I'm saying
you have a process. Oh, good.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's so important that the sales process is customer centric, because when you present it to the customer, they understand straight away, oh, he's doing this because he wants to deliver an excellent solution to us. He wants to deliver what we're looking for, but do it in the right way. And then they'll feel very confident about that. Right. My perspective is that an RFP and RFQ falls into the discovery / prospecting element of any sales process. You know, you are not at the presenting solution stage. You are not at the any further down the line until you actually get invited into the customer and get to present your solution. You know, here you are. This is how you'd solve the problem. You know, you've got to treat it as a cold lead, which requires a lot of work, of course, as well. Maybe because very often when you receive those, you think that, oh, great, you know, we're really far down the line. We've given them everything. We've told them everything. Well, it doesn't really matter, because those are almost just, you know, checking boxes. And then when you get to talk to them, they'll ask you all of the questions and everything at that point. And that's when you can then really start to have a real conversation. So I think that's a very good approach, that you've got that mindset towards it, that you're not looking at it as I'm trying to solve all of their problems in the submission or the initial submission. I'm trying to explain to them why we would be a potentially good partner to solve the problem or deliver the product or solution that they're looking for.
And I'll also say, listen, a lot of work has gone into your template and your questionnaire that you required all proponents to fill out. But I want to let you know also, there was a lot of time that went into there, and we're not going to be able to sign a contract if we're selected without actually putting just as much time into going over that in great detail together with you one more time.
Correct.
And I think it's a fair ask. If you've expected this of me, I'm going to, and it's not a tit for tat thing. It's just like, hold on a second. Like, you wanted an immense amount of detail. Let's scrutinize this for the chances of everyone success before we get much further into it.
Completely right.
If they're not willing to do that, then you know that.
Yeah, then they're not a qualified prospect.
That red light just got a lot brighter. Yeah.
Correct. Well, I think we've made it very clear that this is a topic that we're both very excited about, and we both believe very passionately about. So if you are listening, do make sure that you have a sales process. If you don't have one, put one in place. If you are struggling with that, get in touch with us, because we'll be happy to help you and guide you on that. But if you do have a process, ask yourself the questions. Is it customer focused? Or all the steps customer focused? You know, not just the little bits that are about delivering the solution. All of it needs to be customer focused. Are there clear handoffs between the stages? You know, is there a clear defined, okay, when we've done all of this, right, now we can move on to the next one, because there's very clear steps and transitions. And are you tracking the performance and being clear about the success, the failures, and the
success, failures, and the successes and failures.
No, the successes, the failures, and the things that
like the learning
made it difficult for you to make adjustments, because sometimes you'll take bits out, sometimes you'll adjust things, as we said, and be flexible with certain areas, but those may be even more important to be aware of and thinking about when you're following that process, as to whether or not they made a big difference when you took them away or changed them.
Good summary, my friend. Thanks, everybody. If you would like to hear more of these summaries and musings, you can find our whole catalog at teaandtimbits.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to get in touch, the information is there as well. Enjoy the remaining days of the holiday season. I think we might have one more episode in us for the rest of the year.
We do. We have the Christmas Day episode, which we are stepping away from our Christmas lunches to record.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.